Hello, my dear friends. Welcome back to my studio. Have you ever wondered what is the point of getting expensive graphite pencils when you can just go into the stationery and buy cheaper versions of just your regular school pencils? This is something that I get asked almost on a daily basis, so I thought I would actually dedicate a video to that so that I can once and for all let you guys know about pros and cons of cheap pencils versus the more expensive branded pencils. Make sure to watch till the end because I will be really looking in depth about how pencils are made and the important points that you need to pay attention to when choosing the right pencil for you. Because remember, great art materials are not going to make an amazing artist out of you, but bad materials can definitely stop you from progressing. So make sure you watch till the end. There might be some things that I'll be covering in this video that you wouldn't have seen previously. Question number one that I get asked: Leila, why are some pencils round and the other ones are sort of a hexagon shape? So you can see here I have a round pencil and here I have sides, let's call it that. This is something that can be absolutely not important for you, or it can be super important, and it all depends on where and how you draw. So for example, if you're drawing on a flat surface, either one of these pencils will stay put absolutely fine. If you're working on an angle, did you see what just happened there? Even with a slight tilt, it rolls off. This pencil, on the other hand, sits there until I almost go, well, I don't know what angle that would be, but you know, quite upright. These edges were designed on the pencils for architects because a lot of men and engineers, because a lot of them would be working on these upright tables, so anytime they would place a pencil it would always roll down. So that's where this shape came from. But as I said before, if you work on a flat surface, doesn't matter, you can choose either one and they will both work in the same way. Next point that brings me to comparing your regular pencils that you probably have been using at school to the pencils that you would go in and buy specifically for drawing. And that is when you are dealing with brands that specialize in creating pencils for artists, you would probably see that they tend to have a really big range of softness and hardness. So the values that you can create with these pencils would vary much more than if you're just using your regular B or HB pencils that you normally would use, say, for example, for writing. So here you can see that branded pencils can come between, say, 5H, and remember H stands for hard and B stands for black, which is soft. Just in this set I have 5H, so 5 times hard, and 7B, so 7 times soft. So variation and value that you can create in these pencils is absolutely amazing. So this is a very hard pencil. And this is a 7B, soft pencil. I'm applying the same amount of pressure. So you can see how if I am drawing, it will be so much easier for me to achieve lighter values compared to darker values than if I was just to use one type of pencil, which is HB. HB is something really in the middle. It's great for writing, it's great for doing maybe really quick sketches, line drawings and things like that, but it will be so much harder to achieve the variety that you might require for when you are creating something. If you are just doodling on the back of your, I don't know, exercise book, stick with the HB. If you are trying to create and complete a full-on drawing with all the shadows and lights, I'd say you need to get at least a variety. You don't need to get everything from 5H to 9B, but you do want at least one harder pencil, one in the middle, and something on the softer side. That means you're gonna have to go into an art shop and have a look at the branded products that are specifically made for drawing. Now we've come to another really important part, and that is how the pencils are made. Well, pretty much how much love did the manufacturer put into creating their pencils. A lot of things that are usually ignored by people when they're purchasing pencils, and most people just look at the price tag and say, well, if I can have that pencil for 20 cents, why would I pay $1.20 for that one there? And I will just tell you little things to look out for. Are you enjoying this video? Are you hearing some really important information that will be super helpful next time you go into an art shop? Well, in that case, check out my Patreon page, where just starting from $2 a month you can support this channel, and from $8 a month you will be able to unlock a whole level of extra videos that are regularly uploaded onto my Patreon page. So make sure to go over there and check it out. Lots of in-depth tutorials and follow along things, and including things like voting for next video to come and so on. We're having lots of fun on Patreon, so don't forget to go and check it out. Number one, when manufacturers don't really care about their product, they just want to have a cheaper price on their pencil. By the way, this would apply not only to graphite pencils, but also to coloring pencils as well, or watercolor pencils if you use those. And that is how well the graphite is actually centralized inside the wooden cage. You see, when the graphite is not positioned straight in the middle of the wooden casing, what happens is that you're gonna encounter lots of problems. Problem number one. Look at this. You see, what's happening here is the drawing part, the graphite part of the pencil, is so much off to the side that there is no way that you'll be able to sharpen it with a sharpener. As many of you who watch my channel already, you probably know that I prefer sharpening my pencils with a knife. That's just my personal preference. I just feel that there is more control and so on and so on. I won't get into this now, but you see, with this pencil, there is no way that you would be able to sharpen it with a sharpener, because the point of the pencil would pretty much just be a little wooden stick, and the graphite itself would be somewhere as a colored patch on the side. Not only is it uncomfortable to sharpen, but you also run into problems if you start to press on the pencil too hard. This wooden wall, because it's so thin, will be constantly breaking. So this pencil, you can pretty much throw it away. So that's why a really nicely centralized graphite is a must. This brings me to the point of actually quality wood that is used to create the pencil. I don't know if you have noticed, but some brands, they really pride themselves in saying that we use cedar wood, we use high quality pine, we use, and it sort of seems, well, you don't draw with the wooden part, why would you care? But the reason that it is important is because that's the thing that is actually keeping your pencil together. If you have a bad quality wood, you will have a real hard time sharpening it. It will be breaking off in chunks, and I don't know if any of you have ever experienced a situation where by sharpening you're actually almost breaking your pencil in half, like this here. You see, this part is pretty much separating from the other side. Okay, so another very important material in making pencils is almost like an invisible superhero, okay? And that is a glue that actually binds the wooden casing to the graphite itself. Sometimes you can see it, especially on colored pencils, almost as this whitish sort of a milky line right between the graphite and the wood. Why is it important to have glue in this area? Well, number one, it keeps your pencil from having this problem. Look at this end as I'm pushing this side of the graphite. Can you see? The graphite here did not have enough glue, so it's sliding inside the wooden casing. Now pay attention to this side. There we go. How can one possibly draw with it? Because as soon as you try and do anything, it just snaps back out. It means that this pencil is unusable. What can you do about this? Not much. If you really like the graphite, you can probably break the wooden shell open and use this in those those pencils that hold any sized graphite in. But really, this is a throwaway pencil. Why else do you need to make sure that you have good glue in there that holds everything together? Well, the reason for that is that how often has it happened with you that you're being a little bit clumsy? I know, I'm constantly around the studio moving things around, and then pencils fall on the ground, on the table. Maybe one of your pencil holders falls over on the side and the pencils are spilled all over. Now that's kind of it's not a very good thing to happen to your pencils, but even worse if your pencils don't have the good quality glue. What happens in that case? The graphite of your pencil shatters inside, so lots of little cracks are created. And then what do you do? And the next time you go to sharpen it, the graphite falls out. You sharpen some more, and then the graphite falls out again. It means that you have encountered one of these pencils that I call disappearing pencils, when within one sharpening you can remove half of the pencil just to have a decent lead showing. Again, not a good thing. And the problem, of course, is bad glue that just doesn't hold it properly in place together. But having said that, don't drop your pencils. Another little thing that brands that produce good quality pencils do is that they put a little sort of like a finishing touch on the back there. So you can see this pencil has one here and this one has this one here, and it's actually quite tough. It's like a little bit of extra varnish on the tip. It actually creates a little dome here as well. That is another thing that would prevent the sliding bit happening. Okay, so that's just a little something extra. If you are very heavy-handed and the graphite is so strong that it won't break, this is something that would stop this little bit from poking out, which means your pencil will stay in a good shape. And now last but not least, when you have very good quality pencils, you would notice that when you draw, they slide on paper like butter. With really cheap, bad quality pencils, you would notice that they almost contain little sand granules in the graphite itself. I find this in bad quality pencils, both graphite and color pencils. Now these little granules, they can actually do so much harm to your drawing because, number one, they stop your graphite depositing on the paper, and also they can actually scratch your paper and create really sharp little cuts, which means that the pencil will not be lying down on it smoothly anymore, and you're doomed pretty much. Now what you take away from this video is entirely up to you. Do you still want to try your luck with cheaper pencils just because they are cheaper, or are you gonna go and splurge? Now the thing is, if you don't want to pay, sometimes in some cases, hundreds of dollars for pencil sets, like for example, I have a pencil set here, they can be reasonably useless. I mean, they make a great present and they come in these beautiful boxes and so on and so on, but sometimes the variety that you would get is not actually something you will be constantly using. So a lot of these pencils will just stay in your drawer for years, pretty much. What you need to do is you need to find out what hardness and softness of the pencils that you tend to gravitate towards when you're drawing. Do you prefer to draw with more harder pencils, because you like that very light look, or do you go for much softer, much more intense shadows and contrast? Now, for example, I will tell you about me. I pretty much almost never use pencils as hard as 5H, for instance. Most of my pencil drawing starts from maybe HB to as soft as 9B. So for me, there's no point to buy a whole set, half of which will be filled with pencils that are just way too hard for me to use anyway. So my suggestion is, if you don't want to spend an arm and a leg, go and buy at least 3 different pencils. Something on the hardest edge that you would use. For example, if you use, I don't know, B, for example, that would be me, for instance, B, and then something in the middle, like perhaps 3B or 4B, and then you might want to go for something as soft as 9B or 8B for the really dark areas. That way you will get a really good variety, and you would not have to struggle with just using one shade to create your lightest areas and your darkest areas as well. You will see how much it will actually improve your finished drawings, and how much more fun as well it would be to work. Much less frustrating, I'll tell you that. So I hope you guys, this was helpful, and let me know if you found out anything new in this video. I'll look forward to reading your comments. I would also, guys, like to remind you to subscribe and press notification bell, because there'll be more videos coming up and more tutorials and follow along tutorials and so on. And also a big thank you to my wonderful patrons. Thank you guys for your support, and I look forward to having more fun with you on Patreon. So those of you who don't know, please go and check it out. And I hope you guys have a wonderful day. And as always, thank you so much for hanging out with me. You might also like to watch these videos next.